Today we are going to demonstrate how we can reconcile our website transactions between website order report, ERP ledgers, payment gateway settlement reports, and bank statements using Cointab Reconciliation software. The purpose of this multi-party reconciliation is to verify if you are receiving correct payments for all delivered orders or not, and if customer refunds are being processed correctly. Cointab Reconciliation System is a general-purpose reconciliation software that can help you reconcile any data or incorporate any reconciliation process. The system helps you automatically load data from multiple other systems, build a custom reconciliation workflow, and create dashboards for easy analysis. To understand our system more clearly, we can give you a very simple analogy. Our software is very similar to any paint software wherein there are no pictures drawn by default, and instead you are given a blank canvas and a set of tools using which any picture can be drawn. Similarly, in our software you get a blank canvas and a set of tools using which you can build your custom reconciliation workflow. Now, in order to reconcile the website orders, we start by telling our system that there will be one website order report in your own data format which will help you to automate into the system. Then you can add ERP reports which might consist of order details, sale tax invoices, sales return invoices, etc. Furthermore, we need to configure payment gateway reports for all the providers with whom you work. Finally, we configure the bank account statement in our system. This is the starting point to build the workflow so that our system knows your data points and can help you automate the data load. For an e-commerce website reconciliation, you can integrate a custom website or Shopify or Magento or any other software-based website. Similarly, any custom-made ERP or SAP or Microsoft Dynamics or any other ERP can be integrated. Our software can also work with any payment gateway and bank account in the world. Once these entities are configured in the system, we build the reconciliation workflow wherein between website and ERP we can configure forward as well as backward reconciliation to check if every single website order has been recorded in ERP or not, and vice versa to check if every single ERP invoice has originated from the website. Once website v/s ERP is reconciled, then we can build ERP v/s payment gateway reconciliation for both forward and backward flows to check if we are receiving payments for all the dispatched orders or not, and if any excess payments are captured by the payment gateway which are not present in ERP. With this kind of logic, any mismatches payment is easily highlighted so you can analyze and take appropriate action. Moreover, our system can also help verify payment gateway charges to check if you are being charged correctly. In our system we can configure your rate cards per payment gateway and then per transaction check whether the charges levied are as per your business agreement or not. We can then move on to bank reconciliation, wherein we can reconcile payment gateway settlement reports with bank statements to check if the net settlement amount is correctly received in your bank account or not. This way you can build any custom reconciliation workflow as a one-time activity and then modify whenever your business process changes or you introduce more partners. In our system, using this Add button on the top right corner, you can build any custom reconciliation workflow. As you can see here, there are a couple of steps that we need to go through to create the flow. Once you complete the process, your business logic is configured as required. As we are demonstrating an e-commerce website reconciliation process, we will now show you what sample data for the website looks like, and then based on that how the output looks like. As mentioned earlier, your data can be in any report and in any format, and our system can easily adapt to your business process. For demonstration, we have configured the Shopify data set here. This is how the original Shopify report looks like. As mentioned earlier, it can be any website, either it can be a Shopify-based, Magento-based, or even a custom website. This is how the sample website data looks like. Then you will have some invoices in the ERP, and this is how those ERP invoices may look like. In case your product comes back, you may file a return tax invoice. This is how that return tax report may look like. Next report is the payment gateway report. You may have multiple payment gateways, and each payment gateway will give data in different formats. In the software we try to configure every payment gateway's data into their own format. This is one of the payment gateways whose data format we have configured, and this is how their data looks like. Now each payment gateway will have different rate cards. This is the sample data rate card structure. And finally, we have a bank account statement, wherein we need to verify whether the final net settlement is credited or not. This is how the sample bank data looks like. Now to show you the data set, we start with the sample Shopify report. This is how the sample Shopify report or any other website report looks like. It may contain order number, customer information, order status, payment status, amount, order date, payment date, etc. These are the most important columns that should be there in the data set. Of course, your data can be in any format, and we try to make it work in our software by adapting it for your data set. With this, you don't have to make any changes to the existing data structure or process. So this is what the sample website report may look like. Against that, we have your ERP sales tax report, and this is how the ERP sales tax report may look like. Wherein whenever a product is dispatched, you may create an entry into your ERP, and one of the columns would be the invoice date or dispatch date. The original order number from the website report might be available in one of the columns, the invoice number might be there, the channel from which this particular order originated might be there. Most importantly, amount should be there. What is the invoice amount for this particular order? This is how the sample sales tax report looks like. The next is the return tax report, wherein once the product comes back, you may file the return tax invoice. This is how that report looks like, wherein some return invoice statements might be there, the original order ID, the return invoice number. You may also have an associated original invoice number in one of the columns, and then again the return amount. The return amount means what is the amount that you are expecting to verify in your revenue report, and the amount you are going to refund back to your customer. This is how the sample ERP data looks like. The next would be the payment gateway report, this one sample of the payment gateway report. One of the columns in which the payment gateway highlights whether the transaction is positive or negative is this transaction type column. The values in the same can be payment, frequent charge, charge by, etc. Other columns such as internal transaction ID and various amount columns, customer payment amount, currency, and fee that they are charging on this particular value will be there. Any kind of taxes that they are levying on their fee might be there. Then finally you will get the credit or debit amount depending upon the transaction type. This is the amount which needs to reflect back in your bank account. Along with these columns, they will also give you some additional information about the payment mode used by the consumers, whether it is a debit card or a credit card, which card, Visa, Master, American Express, etc. This information helps us to verify whether the fees they are charging is correct or not as per your business rate card. In case the payment gateway is overcharging, then our system will highlight those transactions so that you can raise disputes with them and then try to recover money from them. And then one of the columns can be the order ID column, which can come in a clean data structure like this or an unclean data structure like this. Our system has full-fledged data cleaning capability to extract the elements and components from the required column, and then try to do reconciliation with the ERP report or the website report. This is how the sample payment data looks like. The next report is the rate card report, whatever business agreement you've signed with your partner. This is how the sample payment gateway rate card looks like, wherein typically they charge at a payment mode level for wallet transactions, pay later, net banking, EMI-based transaction, credit card, debit card, etc. And within the payment mode, there will be further bifurcation. It can be a card, it can be a prepaid card, it can be a debit card, it can be a credit card, it can be a business type of credit card or American Express type of credit card. It can be also categorized at an amount level. So, however it is structured, we try to configure in our software, and then we try to make it at a date level that between X and Y period, this is the rate that they're going to charge you for this particular type of transaction. Once this is configured, then whenever we pour the data into the system will try to verify whether they are actually adhering to this particular rate or not. In case they are overcharging it, then the system will immediately highlight it, so that you can raise disputes with them and try to recover your money. In the future, whenever your rate card changes with them, you just need to upload the latest rate structure into the software, then the system will automatically calculate your charges as per the latest rate card, and then it will alert you in case you are being overcharged. The last part of website reconciliation is the bank statement. This is how a typical bank statement looks like. Again, we load data in a major bank format, so you don't need to make any changes in the data structure. One of the columns can be the date column, some value date column, some kind of description or narration. Some particular column might be there which might give you some transaction ID in which a particular partner's name is present. Then there is a credit or debit column, which will tell you whether you are getting a credit amount or a payable amount, which is the debit amount. This is what the sample data for a website business looks like. And once this is configured into the software, as we showcased early, by using this particular button. Once the data structure is fed into the system, then it comes to loading the data. To load the data, we have these automation mechanisms over here, using which we automate the data load. You can connect to any databases, and then using those database connectors you can automatically load data into the system. We can also configure APIs, push and pull or custom APIs, using which either we can pull the data from your system or your system can push the data into our system. Our software also has SFTP-based integration, wherein you can dump the file on our SFTP from which our reconciliation system automatically can pull the data. We also have many ready-made integrations in place using which simply at a click of a button you can integrate your other software providers and then start dumping the data into the system. We can also do the integration via an email account, in case you are getting any data on the email, as in Excel, CSV, or PDF reports. Then our software can automatically download all attachments, and then load them into the system for reconciliation. If none of these automation mechanisms work for you or for any of your partners, then there is always a manual option available here, using which you can simply load data manually into the system. Using this Add button, you can drag and drop your files over here. This is how the data goes into the software, once the data goes into the system, and then based on the business logic that we configured for you, which reports need to be reconciled with which report, which all columns need to be compared, what sort of differences we need to highlight. The system will do all calculations and make the results available in this result section. Once the reconciliation is done, click on the result button and then choose your reconciliation process. As a large business, we internally have multiple reconciliation processes. As mentioned in the system, we can configure any reconciliation process. So you choose your reconciliation process, whether it is the collection process or a website reconciliation, a payable process, Amazon reconciliation, Uber Eats reconciliation, or any recon can be configured in our system. So you can choose the period for which you want to see the output. You can pick any date or range of days. You can also pick from any of the predefined options which are available here. You can also choose the entire year or your even entire lifetime result. Click on the Show Result button. And this is where you can see the final reconciliation output. Initially, the system will show you the macro view, a very high-level view, and then it will get down to the last level of transaction, where individual transactions get highlighted so you can see whether they are reconciled or unreconciled. In terms of website reconciliation, we will start with the website report. It can be Shopify, Magento website, or any other custom-built website. Over here we will try to report how many total numbers of line items are there in your website report. In this website report, we try to reconcile with your ERP to see whether it's actually logged in your ERP or not for the same amount from the same statuses. Whatever you want to compare with, we try to compare it, and if everything is okay, we try to classify that in one of the line items, that these Shopify orders or their website orders are fully reconciled. In case there is any issue that some website orders are not logged in the ERP, those order IDs can be highlighted. When you click on the button, View Data, then the system will show you these 28 transactions which are there in your website report but not in your ERP. And then here you can see those 28 records which are only there in your website report and not in the ERP. When you open those records you will able to see your raw website data, however it came into the system. And if you see here, this is how your original data set looks like. These are the order IDs that are there on your website but not punched into the ERP. You can then simply download the data from here and then share it with your operations team, tech team, or finance team for further investigation, so that you check why these orders have not been punched into the ERP. As soon as the team investigates it and figures out that these are genuine orders but somehow due to an API issue, IT issue, or some other issue these orders are not logged into ERP, then they can manually upload the data into the ERP. Upon doing this, what will happen is that the next time the system loads in the ERP data on the same day or the next day, the system will find a match between these website orders and the latest ERP data, and then the system will automatically reconcile them and try to close these orders. If all of them are found, the system will automatically shuffle the transactions from this unreconciled bucket to reconciled bucket. Then this particular unreconciled count will become 0. So then the next time this sort of issue comes up again, then the system will highlight and investigate it and then take corrective action accordingly. This is how our system keeps doing reconciliation on a daily basis and keep throwing exceptions. You work on iterations, try to address them, and as soon as they are addressed they will automatically be marked as closed. This is the very first level of reconciliation between the website and ERP. Once this is done, then we will do backward reconciliation between ERP and the website to check whether everything from ERP has been actually thrown to the website report or not. This is how the ERP reconciliations looks like, where we try to report what are the total number of line items in the ERP, and against these lines, we try to do a lookup into the website report and see if everything was found and matched with the website report or not. If there are any invoices in ERP that are not there in the website report, then the system can easily classify those. And when you click this Data button, then you get to see the ERP view, where in some order IDs, some invoices might be there in ERP as mentioned for about 5 invoices along with all the associated payment data. This is how the ERP logged the data, and the same is not there in the website report. Again, you can simply download the data and check with your team how come invoices are logged in ERP but are not present in the website report, and then try to take corrective action. Once ERP is reconciled with the website report, then we try to reconcile it with each payment gateway. So again, out of all transactions reported here, the system will classify the transactions at your payment gateway level. Total payment gateway 1 transaction, total payment gateway 2 transactions, total payment gateway 3 transactions, and so on and so forth. And then within that payment gateway transaction system will try to see whether all the transactions are reconciled or not. Whatever is reconciled, system will try to classify them into one of the line items here. Reconcile would mean that the common ID between the ERP and payment gateway matches. It can be an order ID, payment ID, etc. And all the columns you want to compare, whether it is the status column, amount column, tax column, settlement amount column, or fee column. Whatever you want to compare. If everything tallies up, then the system will classify it as reconciled. If any transaction which your payment gateway is yet to process and yet to pay, then those transactions are shown separately. That these are pending payments from a particular provider. Within that, the software shows whether it is pending seen 10 days to 15 days or over 30 days, etc. Then these line items can be further broken down at the aging bucket level depending upon the requirement. In case the partner is paying you a shorter amount or an excess amount, then those transactions can be highlighted separately. These are the transactions for which you have received an incorrect payment from your providers. And then you click on this line item. Now the system will show you only 6 transactions wherein they are paying, but they are paying on the shorter side. Now if you see here, this is how the original data came. So when we create a reconciliation workflow like this, the system will internally create a grand summary wherein we try to pull all data from all of these entities and create a grand summary report. Wherein this column can come from the website report, the order date can come from the website report, the payment transaction ID can come from the ERP, shipping ID and tracking ID come from other different reports. Essentially what we are trying to say is that for this particular transaction, that whatever is the sale invoice amount, we try to log it in one of the columns over here. In case you file a credit note, then it will try to report that value in some other column, that this is your credit note amount. The sum of the sale amount plus the credit amount will give us the net invoice value. Then this is the net invoice value that your partner is supposed to pay you. Then against that, our system does a lookup in the payment data and then finds what is the total amount captured, consisting of all the positive values we are getting from them. In case they are refunding money back to the customer, then those values will be summarized into some other column. The summation of the positive value plus the negative value will give you the net value that the payment gateway is paying you. Then this net value is compared with your internal expectation, that is the amount which you are expecting from your partner. In case there is any difference between your expectation and what the partner is paying you, then it will be classified as difference. This is the total difference between what you are expecting and what you are getting. As this difference is on the shorter side, system will apply a particular label on the particular transaction. We call it a bucket on our system. This will let you know you are getting less payment from a particular provider. That's how this all transactions are recorded over here. To check in detail if we are getting less payment from our partners, so you can unclick on this I button. It will open a 360-degree view, where you can see your entire transaction life cycle on one single page. You can see this grand summary that we created over here, where all these columns which we created on the system, these are computational columns which we have created during the course of reconciliation. Now for this particular order, the original website report is shown over here. This is how the original website report listed the data set, and for this particular order ID, all the sale invoices are shown over here. As seen, there are 2 sales invoices here for $1,500 and $1,500. That value our system summarized here, that there are invoices with a total of $3,000. There is no credit note or written invoice for this particular order, hence this particular value is 0. Now due to that the net expectation becomes 3,000. And against that system will show how it is linked with the payment gateway. So this is how this particular payment data comes. It is for a particular payment ID, not the order ID, because, in the payment gateway report, you do not have an order ID, instead you may have a payment gateway ID. As you can see on the website report, the payment gateway ID is there. During the course of reconciliation, we created this summary. System summarized that the value in one of these columns is in the summary report, and then a particular column will be linked with the payment gateway report. As you can see, this is like a master form of payment gateway, which is like a pivot that we create internally in the system. As we click on that raw payment gateway data set, we can see that on this particular payment gateway ID there are 2 rows. One is of payment type and one is of refund type. This one is positive 3,000, and this one is negative 3,000. So as soon as you load the raw payment gateway data, internally, the system will create a summary table like a pivot. From this particular payment gateway ID, this is the payment gateway's net value, which shows that you are getting 3,000, refunding 3,000, and the net collection value you getting is 0. Then the system will link the payment gateway's pivot with the grand summary we created using the payment gateway ID. Those payment columns we created get moved into the summary report. That's how these 3 columns get populated. And then finally the system will compare your expectations against the payment gateway net. And if there is any difference, then the system will be highlighting it in this column, that this is the difference between what you are expecting versus what you are getting. As it is on the shorter side, the system will try to apply this tag that you getting a short payment from the payment gateway. All of this data is completely downloaded easily in Excel, so you can analyze it further or try to share it with the internal team or with the payment gateway team for further rectification. There are filters available so that you can filter the transaction in a reconciliation scenario, so you can pick any recon scenario and try to filter your data. In this section, you can use Excel attributes to filter data such as order ID, equal to or begin with, etc. If you have advanced team members using the system, they can also write select statements to filter data. Now in one system, data from multiple other systems are going to go through, so if you want to use it for further analysis, you can easily do so. In this particular case, as soon as the system alerts you and you figure out that this refund is genuine and somehow your team has paid into the account a return invoice, then you can log so, and the next day as soon as the system will pick the ERP report, it will find the 3,000 credit note over here. It will then add these 2 columns, and due to that the net value will become 0, so your expectation now is 0. Then it will match with the payment gateway net, and thus this difference will become 0, and the system will shuffle this transaction from the less payment bucket to the reconciled bucket. This is how the system will keep doing the reconciliation at a desired frequency, daily, multiple times in the day, weekly, and monthly depending upon your requirement. Till then it will keep showing the insights, and so you can take an action on them and then try to reconcile them, getting the corrective action done from your internal team and the payment gateway. And as soon as those corrective actions are done, our system will automatically close them and mark them as reconciled. This is how the system does the reconciliation partner by partner. Partner 1 Reconciliation and Classification. Partner 2 Reconciliation and Classification. Partner 3 Reconciliation and Classification, so on and so forth. This is what we call forward reconciliation. From your data to the partner data. Once that is done, then our system will do the backward reconciliation, where the starting point is your partner's data set. It starts with your partner. We classify what are the total numbers of line items in your partner's report. And against these line items, we do a reverse lookup in ERP to see whether every single payment has been updated in the ERP or not. We check whether everything tallies up and is logged, or either are any issues, we classify them. If there is any excess payment collected by the payment gateway which is not there in your ERP or your website report, then those transactions are classified separately. So you can see it and analyze it and try to make corrective actions on them. This kind of backward reconciliation takes place partner by partner, so every single row reported by the partner is fully accounted for in your ERP. Once this payment reconciliation is done in backward reconciliation, then our system helps to do the rate verification, where it checks whether you have been charged correctly or not. In case on any transaction your payment gateway partner is overcharging you, those transactions can be highlighted. Again, if you click on the View Data button, then the system will show you all the transactions where you have been overcharged by this value. This entire calculation is done using your rate card, where the system tries to verify what should have been ideally charged rate compared to the live rate. If there is any difference, the system will try to highlight it here. For example, you can see in this particular transaction of 1900 payment gateway has charged 11.4 rupees, and then the payment method was by UPI. Now on this particular payment method, towards the end we will look in the rate card and try to see what should have been the expected charges. So for this particular payment method, the payment gateway was not supposed to charge any amount, but they have charged this amount. So this entire value will become the differential amount. In some cases, even though they are supposed to charge us, as you see on this particular day, they are supposed to charge us 2.6, but they have charged us 2.8. The amount overcharged amount sums up to 1.57, and as this amount is on the higher side, our system is alerting that, on this particular transaction we have been overcharged. You can also see the summary of the total overcharged value here. So as you can see here, this is the total overcharging value. On the dashboard also system reports the same. There are basic calculations such as the average value is 7.11, maximum overcharging is 104, minimum overcharging is 0.17, etc. You can also download the data from here and share it with your partner for raising disputes to recover funds from them. Whenever they realize the error on their part, they might not fix the data, but they will give you a credit note or a reimbursement. Whenever you get it, at that point you can use the manual exception management function in the software to manually close those transactions, because these transactions are never going to be automatically closed, so you can always manually close those transactions by saying you have received a credit note or reimbursement, and particular number. And you can manually close the transactions. As soon as you manually close these transactions under this primary bucket, our system will create a secondary bucket, fee overcharged manually closed, and these transactions will go under that bucket, so the primary bucket count will go to 0, and then the secondary bucket will have all these transactions for audit trail. And in future, if they have again overcharged you, then the primary bucket will again alert you. Now likewise, you can do any checks and balances you want in the system, whether it is fee verification, whether it is tax verification. You can also build a settlement amount check. The original customer collected amount minus fee and tax should be the settlement amount. But in case their own calculation is wrong, then it will be highlighted as a variance or difference. Then you can see whether that particular transaction is settled in the bank or not. And if it is not settled, then the system will highlight it. Now this type of check and balance you build for any payment gateway or any other partner. So partner by partner or report by report, you can add any check column and try to build highlights with them. Once this entire verification is done. Finally, we will try to link the settlement amount to the bank statement and see whether we are getting the final settlement found in the bank or not. For that, you need to load your bank data and then try to see whether each partner is paying you correctly or not. In case they are not paying you correctly, then the system can again flag those transactions separately. You can then click on this line and click View Data, after which the system will show you all these bank settlements here. If you see, this is how the bank statement looks like that on this particular date. For this particular narration, we got this credit into the bank. As soon as you load the bank data, the system will clean the data and create these computational columns over here, where it will read the credit and debit amount column and try to figure out whether is it a positive amount or a negative amount, and try to summarize it into one column. The positive value is for credit rows and the negative value is for debit rows. After that, it will read the narration and figure out the partner who is paying you and try to create a party column and add a tag that this partner is paying you. Then from the description column, it will extract the transaction ID and put it in a separate column as a structured data set, so that when we need to look through the partner report becomes easier. So at this point, we have these three columns that this partner with on ID paid you this. To verify if this amount is correct, the system does a lookup on this party's data on this transaction ID. The lookup can be on the transaction ID or on the transaction amount or some other identifier. Then it will try to do a sum to find promised amount. Once it finds the promised amount, it will put it in your bank statement for reference and compare it with your bank TXN amount. If there is any difference, it will try to classify it over here in the difference column. Here, you can also set up a value difference threshold. So any value difference up to half a cent, $1, $2 or so. If you want to ignore, then the system can easily ignore that value difference, and then the system will alert you only for transactions where the value difference is over and above that. Till that, the system will easily classify them as reconciled. Over and above that, it will highlight the transactions on which you are getting incorrect settlements. For example, for this particular record promised amount was $65,903 but in bank we received $60,903 so we got $5,000 less. So the system will alert us that for these transactions, we are getting short value in the bank. By clicking on the I button we again open the 360-degree view. This time around we are looking at the data between the bank and the payment gateway provider. You can see this is the transaction ID which was extracted and created a column called the party, applied the party name and figured out the bank amount. To check whether this amount is correct, on this UTR we do a lookup into our partner status for this particular payment gateway and here you can see all the transactions where this UTR is present. Then the system will then calculate the promised amount. It will be readily available in one of the columns or we might have to do some calculations. In this particular provider's case, we get data in two columns that are debit and credit. So the system creates a third column called settlement amount by applying the formula which is credit minus debit so that the settlement amount is calculated. After this, the system will do a sum of this particular column and then put it into your bank statement for reference. It then compares it against your bank realized values and if there is any delta it will put it in a separate column and then it applies a label to it saying that for these transactions you are getting a short payment in your bank account. You can then download the data in Excel and share it with your partner to raise a dispute and try to recover the funds from them. This is how our system does reconciliation. It helps simplify order-to-cash reconciliation for any website-based business wherein from the website it can do recon with your ERP, payment gateways, and finally with the bank. And likewise, as we mentioned earlier, any other reconciliation process can be also configured. Because it is full-fledged custom reconciliation software wherein using the available tools you can make any custom reconciliation workflow. To know more about our reconciliation software, visit our website www.cointab.in.